Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and you are watching 24 videos in 24 hours because at midnight tonight, the terms of service on YouTube changes so that any channel that is no longer commercially viable, well, they don't have an obligation to host it. That and many other terms of service changes are coming, and many people think that myself and others may be targets. I don't know that I've ever been commercially viable, but one of the things that we do here is we talk to opposing views. And right now, I have the author of Escaping the Rabbit Hole, a guide to helping friends, family, and loved ones debunk conspiracy theorists with facts, logic, and of course, respect. And respect is one of the reasons that I've always had kind of an open rapport with Mick West. It might get a little snarky, but I think people are allowed to have different views. And Mick, you can follow him over on Twitter at Mick West. He's got his own YouTube channel. If you want a longer form discussion, we have an hour-long video right here. And of course, he is the founder and owner of DEBUNKED.org. Mick, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Jason. How are you holding up?
Pretty good. Now, again, I pre-recorded, about 7 of them yesterday, and from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., I launched some of the pre-records. I did one live at 7. I had another pre-record at 8. I did another one live the hour before this. You're live. Gage is next. He's live. Then I've got another pre-record, and then we're going live for the rest of the day. And hopefully, I'm probably going to conk out around midnight. But look, if I'm going to go out, I'm going out with a bang. Now, we really didn't get much prep time, so I'm wondering, what is your take on not only the new terms of service change, but COPPA? A lot of people are worried about that as well, and you're in the YouTube realm.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting how it's going to play out. Yeah, they've changed the terms of service so that they can terminate you for essentially at will. It's they say that it's at their sole determination whether you're commercially viable or not. So it's I guess it means that potentially they could just like get rid of anybody they don't like. Now, I've had brushes with kind of the heavy-handedness of YouTube before. Like my channel is currently demonetized. Not that it made any money, because I only have like 6K subs. But my channel's demonetized because like about 3 years ago, I put up a video from one of the jihadists, what was his name? Jihadi John?
Yes, the UK
guy,
one, right?
Yeah, the guy who was standing behind people waving a knife. And I had a video that included the footage from one of those, and I just I forgot all about it. And apparently their algorithm found it and flagged it because it's from the terrorists, and they put a hit on my channel, and now it's demonetized, and I don't know who to talk to get it back. So
and it's very hard to get a hold of YouTube. And you know what?
Yeah.
I don't even know what your opinion on that was. I myself have done videos questioning some of those beheading videos, not all of them, but the Jihadi John ones especially. We know we had that leak that came out on Live Leak that was supposedly from a McCain staffer. It was never debunked. It was never confirmed. But there was a set there. There was somebody who looked a lot like Jihadi John cutting somebody's throat. But the ability to talk about that, I think, is important, especially in light of today, Mick. I don't know if you've been on Twitter yet, but what's trending? I know the impeachment's going on, but the Afghanistan Papers and the Pentagon Papers and their parallels are trending. So once again, we've been lied to about the state of war again, and now in Afghanistan. And without independent media, without people putting on the pressure, how do those stories get out? And I think a great example might be Duma, but we'll get into that as well.
Yeah, well, I think with this Afghanistan Papers thing, you've really got to acknowledge from the start, like, who actually got the papers out there. It wasn't essentially independent media. It wasn't like people on YouTube. It was the Washington Post, which is essentially mainstream media. It's it's a paper that's left-leaning and probably somewhat opposed to the policies that's represented by things like the administration's policy in Afghanistan. But it's traditional media who did actually release this story, and the actual original Pentagon Papers. That again, I believe, was the Washington Post, wasn't it?
I do, yeah.
Back in the day.
But
yeah,
my point would be, guys like me have been beating this drum for almost 18 years. Without the independent media, sure, we get confirmation now, Mick. But again, it's a little too late. And let me say this. we're kind of set in stone with Afghanistan. We've been there so long. It's almost a rhetoric talking point that they almost never bring up in the debates, but they are talking about how are you going to get them out. They talk to Pete Bootlicker about it and others. Now, my problem is when you talk about the mainstream media like that, here we have Tariq Hadid, who worked for Newsweek for a long time. And a couple days ago, he resigned from Newsweek because they refused to publish his story on the OPCW letter that WikiLeaks just released. Now, that's on top of the leaked report. If you haven't read the letter yet, they're very at odds with what the actual report said. And basically, Mick, they're saying that in April of 2018, there was no chemical attack in Duma. There was no bombing there. And let me just say this. Pearson Sharp was on the ground. He had video footage all over. I went to that. Robert Fisk was on the ground. He had said the same thing. Tulsi Gabbard had asked James Mattis on the record before Congress if they had any evidence that a chemical attack had even taken place. And he said no. The mainstream media has failed to hammer that home. And you know what? Props to Tariq Hadid for now leaving because they refused to publish that. But again, the leaked OPCW report was around months ago. Pearson Sharp's report was around in April 2018. I think the very fact that we've had to wait, what is it now? It would be 17, 18 months for this guy to actually resign, and the mainstream media still isn't touching this story is a problem, Mick.
Sure, yeah, no, and I think there is a role for independent voices like yourself. I don't know how big that role is. I mean, you talk about like how did you've been beating the drum on Afghanistan for a long time, sure, but I don't think people at the Washington Post are watching your channel. I don't think like what you do, like you inform some people about some issues, but I think perhaps because you are marginalized, you marginalize yourself in a way because you handle fairly extreme issues like controlled demolition of the World Trade Center buildings. It makes it difficult for people to take you seriously. And I think there are very, very real issues. Now, you talk about the gas attacks, the supposed gas attacks or the real gas attacks. Like we won't determine that here, but that's an issue that's kind of more in the middle. It's still kind of a conspiracy theory type thing.
But why?
But it's got some mainstream media attention.
Why is that a conspiracy theory when nobody else?
It's a conspiracy theory either way. Like it's either it was a conspiracy that it's a fake one and they're trying to pretend it's real, or it's a conspiracy that's a real one and someone else is trying to pretend that it's fake. So somebody is conspiring here. So somebody is falling for a conspiracy theory.
And I believe it's us. I mean, no offense, but I think that it's not a conspiracy theory when you have the footage on the ground that day, live streaming with the village, with the neighbors. Within a week, you have the kid that's supposedly on the video who's a victim of this gas attack, literally with government officials. I believe they were Russian government officials giving a presentation of how he was pulled in. All these things have been out there. And I guess, listen,
sure,
everybody's
going to... Those Russian government officials, were they actually there trying to get the real story, or were they there trying to present a different story?
Well, you say that, but was that kid poisoned? If he was the victim of a gas attack, what's he doing sitting there saying he wasn't? That's my point.
Just because you're in a gas attack, it doesn't mean you die.
Well,
some people just get
Nick, but he wasn't sick.
A small amount of it.
But CNN can go there and sniff a backpack and say that they smell chlorine and will just bomb the shit out of the place. That's my point. We still sent 100 missiles in there.
There was a bit more than just sniffing a backpack in terms of actual evidence.
Well,
we could probably
Nick,
beat this horse for a while.
All right. Well, let's shift gears in a minute. But I got a super chat over here I want to read. Nick Waite says Mick West even looks like a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater character. LOL. R.I.P. Neversoft. Keep it up. Great work, Jason. For those that don't know, that's kind of where Mick cut his teeth. As one of the founders of Neversoft in that great Tony Hawk series. I want to move a little bit into Epstein. Okay, because I'm not sure how you feel. We talked about it a little bit, but we talked about whether it was suicide or murder, and obviously Barr has come out and said, "I know it looks bad," but now the camera footage that I've seen says that nobody was in and out of that cell. Now, my biggest problem with all of this, obvious, other than the obvious suspicions, is the fact that Mark Epstein has now come forward, given an interview to Vanity Fair, where he says his brother told him he was attacked the first time by Nicholas Tartaglione. Now, if that is in fact true, number one, why was he ever put on suicide watch? That would look like there was some kind of an attack and a hit. And number two, why would we think the second time was suicide when he didn't try to commit suicide the first time. And the mainstream media is largely ignoring that. They're largely ignoring Baden saying he's never in his career seen 3 breaks in a suicide. And he's not often in his career seen 2 breaks in a suicide in 50 years. So I'm just wondering if you've revised your position on that at all, and what your thoughts are on Mark Epstein saying that and saying he's scared for his life as well.
Yeah, I haven't really revised my position. I think it's still the same type of thing. And I think his family, for some reason, has this kind of vested interest in presenting it as being a suicide. And they prefer that. A lot of people, not being a suicide as being a murder. A lot of people don't like to think of their relatives as being suicidal. And it's, you would fight against that idea, and you would explore other options. And, Barr comes out and he says that he's seen this video, and he says that he thinks that it's a result of gross ineptitude rather than some kind of conspiracy. And I think that probably is correct. That they have other video footage other than the video footage they didn't have, the broken cameras and
the
stuff.
2 cameras.
I would hope eventually that video footage comes out. The cells only have one way in and out. It's not like someone's getting in through a trapdoor in the background. But, if video footage comes out, it's very easy to say it's been faked. And, I suppose if the high-level government is supposedly in on the conspiracy, it's not going to actually help. But, if they show it to enough people and they have provenance for the video, I think that is reasonable evidence.
Well, let's talk about that.
All the other stuff is speculation, though. Like the other stuff, like did he kill himself? He had the motive to kill himself in that he was looking at spending the rest of his life behind bars. So I think there's that there. You acknowledge that. And who knows what happened before? One person says something. One person says something else.
Well, I'll say this, Mick. In the very beginning, I said, there's that possibility. That the first time around, maybe he was beaten. Who knows? Maybe some of these prisoners had their way with him. Maybe they beat him into the sense that he did want to commit suicide. It was even going to be worse.
Yeah.
Now, his brother, again, said that he was in high hopes. He had the bail hearing. He thought maybe he was going to be able to get out in personal security. I think that's a pipe dream. I think, obviously, with all the press and all these people now coming forward, that was not going to happen. I was kind of 50-50 on the fence until all of a sudden it was 2 guards, then it was 2 cameras, and then the nail in the coffin for me was this revelation by his brother. Not to say that his brother is to be trusted. He had dealings with Jeffrey as well that are very suspicious in the property range, especially in New York. He didn't want to discuss those with Vanity Fair if you read that article. But I'd say this. This is a Leviathan of a case. This guy was connected to a lot of people, and I remember on the day that they were supposed to have the first jury hearing, when they were supposed to select jury for the Bradley Edwards lawsuit. After 10 years, that lawsuit was finally going to go through. It started with Epstein suing Edwards, and then Edwards countersuing Epstein. Epstein folded. He wrote a written statement basically exonerating Bradley Edwards of anything that he accused him of, and he paid him an undisclosed sum of money. Now, at that press conference afterwards, someone asked him if Harvey Weinstein was in the same circle as Jeffrey Epstein, and Bradley Edwards said, yes, these people are in the same circles or travel in the same circles. And then Scarola, his lawyer, said, I just want to correct one thing he said. He said they slither in the same circles. And then now, just yesterday, the big story was that we have this photograph of Jeffrey Epstein, and it's really odd, he's in this, I know it's a costume party, but he's in this military naval garb. And somebody pointed this out to me. I brought it into Photoshop. You can kind of see it here. Now, I'm not saying something was blurred out there. It's a possibility. It could have been a movement on the camera because, as you can see, the collar is kind of blended as well. But it's the only place that I really found in the photo that's actually pretty tight. I mean, you see the hair highlights. It doesn't look like it's...
It does look blurry.
It does, right? You should go take a look at the high definition because I didn't find that phenomena anywhere else. And I would wonder, number one, why they would go to the trouble, to Photoshop anything out of this. But this is, again, just more confirmation that Weinstein and Epstein were in the same circles, Mick. More revelations out there.
Well, they're in the rich people's circles, and the rich kind of slightly creepy people. So, Weinstein is obviously a sexual predator from all that we've read, and obviously Epstein was too. And there are very real issues, and the real issues of things like this sexual exploitation are a real thing that we need to focus on. And I think in some ways, like getting bogged down in the suicide thing, I don't think it's like fully clarified or not, but I think perhaps people are putting too much attention on it. There's plenty of other stuff to look at.
Well,
look at
all
Prince
right,
Andrew.
let's talk about that, because the
what's going on
suicide
there.
comes on the heels of those 2,000 pages that came out, right? And now for the first time, Bill Richardson gets named as an alleged pedophile. Glenn Dubin gets named as an alleged pedophile. George Mitchell gets named as an alleged pedophile. Several of the co-conspirators' names come out that are on lower levels, that are working for Epstein. Yet there are no arrests. We know in that original indictment, when he did get arrested, they had 3 employees, 1, 2, and 3 that were working with him. We still don't know who they are. But they haven't picked up Leslie Groff, Nadia Marcinkova, Sarah Kalin, Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously being the most high profile of these people. Now, I've been focusing on the 10,000 more pages that are coming or supposed to come out via this suit. My question to you is, since they didn't focus on someone like Bill Richardson, who was the governor of New Mexico at the time where Zorro Ranch was and where consent was 16 years old and Epstein never registered as a sex offender, if they're not going to report on that, if it's up to me to report on that and probably be the most vocal voice on it, what hope do we have that if these 10,000 pages come out and like Edwards and Gouffre Roberts say, another 1,000 names are named, that anything's done?
Yeah, I don't think you can just report on names being named. That way, anybody could name anybody and say, this guy has been accused of sexual molestation or whatever, or sexual abuse of children, and then their name is slurred forever.
Yeah, but hold on.
Just
This
because
isn't a court
someone's
of law.
name is named.
Hold on, this is in
or
a court of
even
law.
in connection with something.
Yeah, but this is in a court of law, and it's been in a court of law since, I believe, a lot of these papers were filed back in 2009, 2010. In these suits against.
Right.
Yes.
But anyone can bring suit as well. So just because someone brings suit against someone, that's why they have protection in sex offender cases. Initially, is that you can't just have someone be automatically associated just because someone says so. It has to go through the process of law to figure out what's the actual evidence behind this. Does this person's word have weight? Is there actual?
But when does that ever stop the
something
media
there
in the
rather than-
past, bro? That's what I'm saying. I feel like there's this new hands-off rule in certain cases, and it's like, all right, well, if we're going to believe Virginia Roberts that, for instance, Trump cut his relationship off with Epstein at Mar-a-Lago because of her. Her dad is the one that worked for him, if you read the court papers. She also says that she rode on the Epstein Lolita Express with Trump, not to the island. She didn't get abused by him. But I was one of the people that was pointing that out. I was like, listen, there's already evidence that Trump had him on his plane. They obviously had a relationship. And then those documents come out, the 2,000 pages. And sure enough, it's confirmed that Trump rode his plane as well. They have that relationship. The press will report on that, right? But they won't, and then they'll infer that he might be a pedophile. But then they'll pull back on Bill Clinton. They won't touch the fact there's photographs of Ghislaine Maxwell at Chelsea Clinton's wedding, and that there's reports that they vacation together. Instead, we get a joke on Comedy Central from Trevor Noah on how she killed Epstein, right? Well, her daughter's sitting right there with Clinton. It's a real problem, Mick. I think that back in the day, at least with the scandal press, if you got outed as so much as an affair in the 80s, it could ruin your political career. Obviously, after the Clinton impeachment, we started in a new era where people said, you know what, that was a little ridiculous. That's not why we should have impeached a guy.
You're talking about an affair ruining someone's career.
Well, I'm saying back in the day,
actually verifiably happened, like with Gary Hart.
Well, yes, the Gary Hart one would be there.
But
But
photographic evidence of things, that's one thing. But someone making an accusation, is that automatically something that should be reported, regardless of what's actually going on?
Yeah, but we don't know the evidence with that accusation. All we've seen.
So if you don't know the evidence, then why are you reporting that there's an accusation? Report the evidence. If someone has photographs, that's one thing. The people saying if someone denies a connection and then there's a photograph of them having a connection, report on that. And people do report on that. They are reporting Trump knew Epstein, things like that. So they are actually giving you the evidence. But it doesn't mean they have to report every single accusation, because there are going to be some people who will get caught up in things who didn't actually have anything to do with it. So you need to actually have evidence before you move forward with these things.
No GPS data. Thank you for the super chat. Anyone answer why Epstein was wearing a uniform? Well, again, it was a masquerade ball or some kind of a costume party. We've been going for about 20 minutes. I want to ask you, One last subject, especially because we're talking about the sexual assault. Now, I don't know if you've seen any of my videos on Conor McGregor and the alleged sexual assaults regarding him, right? But now we're talking about a country where you can't name a person until they've been convicted. In Ireland, it's an 8% conviction rate. Now, this is probably the most high-profile athlete in combat sports today. He's worth $500 million, $1 billion to the likes of Disney that owns ESPN, WME Entertainment, Ari Emanuel, UFC, this conglomerate. And I've now gone over a multitude, over a dozen mainstream news sources where they're talking to high-level police sources. And I'll quote it. I mean, it's been shadow banned. This information started getting tweeted by TSN, a member there, which is the Canadian ESPN affiliate. And immediately it got shadow banned. And the quote, I'm summarizing it, but it said, all of the evidence points to the fact that this woman suffered a horrendous ordeal and was brutally beaten and raped. Not some. And that included forensic evidence. She was taken to a doctor. That included eyewitness testimony that was not her own because she didn't give a statement until January. Now, our press here failed to even report that until April. It took the New York Times until April when that happened, December 10th. Okay? Even to report it. They whitewashed it. They told you none of the details I just did, that she was not only brutally beaten, raped, bloodied, had choke marks, sodomized, anally raped, but the reports were that she actually had to have a tampon surgically removed from her cervix. Now, it's also mainstream news that he offered her $1 million plus, and she's turned it down. Now, we're about to be on the 1-year anniversary of that. The man has now 19 other convictions in Ireland. He's going to get a visa to fight here in Vegas on the 18th if somebody doesn't do something about it. If the media can't expose what I just said, and it's all out there, Mick. I'll send you a link to my thread if you can read it. But again, most of it's been shadow banned. I'll send you a video where I read through the links and you can check them out yourself. What hope do we have against the media telling the truth about a multi-trillion-dollar war machine?
Well, that's quite a pivot there at the end. Yeah, well, I think to a large extent the media is scared of being sued by somebody like McGregor. He's a rich guy. If he actually managed to get off on the case and if he gets away with it, and then people are saying all this stuff about him beforehand, he can then turn around and start suing the media for millions of dollars for defamation. Whereas, like when you're investigating things like, corruption in Afghanistan, that's a completely different kettle of fish. The government can't sue you. Now, you could, let's say, there could be like something else going on that would shut you down or whatever, but it's not the same type of thing. It's a noble thing to do to investigate things like corruption. Mm-hmm. Is it a noble thing to do to like smear around all the details of some kind of rape case before the verdict has been reached?
I don't know, but when Ruth Coppinger is sitting before the Irish Parliament talking about Irish sports stars strutting around and raping with impunity, I don't know that it's just me tailing off. And it's frustrating because, I'm a big fan of that sport, but it's a microcosm for me to how controlled narratives can be for powerful people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't want to like protect rapists, but I also, I think we have these privacy rules for reasons, and sometimes you're going to get some really bad person who ends up being protected by the rules that are intended to protect good people, and I think that's kind of like an unfortunate consequence. But hopefully the justice system will work its wheels, and eventually, if he's guilty, he'll get convicted, and then the whole story will be able to come out.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I mean, that man literally turned himself in the next day with a barrister and said the sex was consensual, and they sent him on his way because she hadn't made a statement yet. In fact, they didn't arrest him until January 17th, over a month and a half after, when she finally made a statement because she was scared for her life. But hey, who cares about the details? I'm just Jason Burmis. I'm a crazy guy that believes in controlled demolition. Don't listen to me. But that being said, I want to thank Mick for coming on. I want a longer form discussion with you because, at least you're always bringing an opposing viewpoint, and it's not like you go too over the top, and you've never accused me of being a CIA shill or a Mossad agent. I've never done that to you, but I know you get plenty of it, and I get plenty of it on the other end of the spectrum. The website, guys, once again, is metabunk.org. Believe me, I don't agree with a lot of the things here, but I always like another perspective. Mick West is the YouTube channel, and you can follow him on at Mick West on Twitter. Mick, what would you like to leave my audience with?
Oh, I don't know. Just keep an open mind. I think something I always close with is that you got to keep a genuinely open mind, which means listening to both sides. And you're doing that. You've got me on as well, so that's good. And don't get too far down the rabbit hole. Keep your options open.
All right, that was Mick West, everybody. Thank you once again, Mick. Guys, we're doing 24 videos in 24 hours. Please thumbs this video up, share it with others. Like the video. Join the Burmese Brigade. We want to hit 40K, 50K, 100K. You're watching again. 24 videos in 24 hours with a multitude of great guests. And guys, I'm a documentary filmmaker. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. All available free right here, right now in the documentaries playlist. I'm not selling them to you. I'm giving them to you because I think they are important. If you want to financially support me, I've got a GoFundMe. This is how we do it. $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. And again, on the eve of YouTube just changing their terms of service, we're doing it live. We're going out with a bang. If we're going out, we're doing 24 videos in 24 hours. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And we will be back at the top of the hour, hopefully, with Richard Gage from Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. I'll see you on the flip side.